In The Godfather, the Corleone crime family has many enemies trying to threaten their empire. But was this one the smartest and toughest to take down? Virgil Sollozzo is the main enemy in the first act of the movie and makes his mark known immediately. Also known as the Turk, he received this nickname because of his skill with a knife, and we see his knife skills once in the film, and it was pretty effective to say the least. Virgil came on the scene and caused havoc, almost whacking Vito Corleone, shaking up the landscape of the mafia world at the time. But the question we're looking to find out is, how did Virgil almost outsmart and nearly kill the most powerful mob boss at the time? And what was Virgil's downfall that got him whacked? Let's take a deeper dive into it. Virgil Sollozzo was born November 15th, 1911. Virgil gained a reputation as a top narcotics man and was the leader of his own organization. He grew poppy seeds in Turkey and had laboratories in Sicily and Marseille. As he began to grow in the mob world in the 1930s, he made contacts with some of the five families. These included the Tattaglia family, and as you know, he got in contact with the Corleones as well. And once Sollozzo touched down in New York, he joined up with the Tattaglias to help support him in his heroin business. He purchased a warehouse in Manhattan to set up his shop, and all he now needed was what Vito had, and that was protection and some more cash. So the two had a meeting, along with some of Vito's men, to discuss this deal Virgil was proposing. Sollozzo offered 30% interest on the sales of the heroin in exchange for $1 million up front and the protection of the police and politicians Vito had. Virgil exclaimed in the meeting that in the first year alone, Vito will make $3 to $4 million. Even though Virgil presented all of this, Vito denied Virgil, saying the narcotics business is dangerous and not for him. Now, in this scene, Sonny interrupts the conversation and is very intrigued about what Virgil is saying. This point is important, and we will come back to it, but in the end, Vito denied this business and the two went on about their day. A little later, as you know, Virgil put a hit out on Don Vito, almost killing him. Now, the reason Sollozzo tried to have Vito killed is because he initially thought Sonny would do the deal because of his interruption during the meeting. Sonny was interested in what Virgil was saying before Vito cut him off. How did Virgil almost outsmart him? Vito Corleone was the most powerful boss at the time and hadn't been in any danger since the Olive Oil War back in 1933. This hit on Vito that leaves him in the hospital takes place in 1945. So far over a decade, Vito's life or empire isn't being threatened. So how did Virgil do this if no other family could? There were multiple fronts on which Virgil outsmarted Vito. Let's uncover them. The way he did this was through contacting one of the Corleone button men, Paulie. In the book, it is stated that Paulie's phone records showed multiple calls between him and Virgil. On top of this, he called in sick many times, and specifically on the day Vito was shot. Most likely, Paulie gave Virgil information on Vito's whereabouts on many different occasions, hoping the hitmen would be able to take Vito out. It is impressive that Virgil was not only able to get one of the Corleone soldiers to flip on them, but also caused that much destruction to the family. It had been a decade since someone had seriously threatened the family the way Sollozzo did, and was unheard of in the mob world at the time. You could argue this was the biggest blow to the family, as it ended up causing a snowball effect of events to happen that continued to threaten the family. Once again, Virgil comes very close to taking Vito out, again when he's at the hospital recovering. It took complete luck for Michael and Enzo to show up at the time that they did, saving Vito's life. Virgil's peskiness continues when he kidnaps Tom Hagen. As Virgil says,
"I don't like violence, Tom. I'm a businessman."
He urges Tom to make peace between Sonny and Virgil in hopes of the deal still being on the table. In this scene, even Virgil says the Don was slipping.
The Don, rest in peace, was slipping. 10 years ago, could I have gotten to him?
When many people in the mob world feared Vito and didn't bother to try to rise up, Virgil did the opposite and realized that the Don wasn't actually as bright as he once was. He saw an opportunity with the narcotics in New York, and once Vito denied him, he decided to make his move, completely shaking up the chessboard. Another important scene that shows Virgil's wits was the killing of Luca Brasi. This may be the moment Virgil realizes Don Vito is actually vulnerable. If you remember, Vito tells Luca to act as if he's upset with the Corleones and to find some information on the Tattaglia and Sollozzo enterprise. But Sollozzo sniffs this ploy out with ease. Once Bruno and Sollozzo agree with Luca on work, the Turk puts his nickname to use, stabbing Brasi in the hand, while an assassin comes from behind and chokes him to death. Virgil completely outsmarted Vito here, and now knows that Vito doesn't trust him. Although Virgil did wreak havoc and cause many problems in the Corleone operation, he couldn't kill the Don, and that proved to be fatal for him. As many of you know, he died at the hands of Michael Corleone in Louis' restaurant in the Bronx. The Corleones anticipated that Sollozzo would continue to go after the Don, and Michael proposed an absurd plot to kill McCluskey and Sollozzo. Everyone laughed at him, but he convinced them and ended up having a sit-down with the two of them. There they discussed the situation at hand, and Sollozzo was offering a truce. He tried explaining that his attempts on his father were purely business and weren't personal. But when Michael demanded a guarantee that no more attempts be made, Virgil said he couldn't give any guarantees, and all he wanted was a truce. Was Virgil going to keep attacking if he were to have come out of this meeting alive? This is an interesting point to consider. But anyways, Michael went to the bathroom shortly after, and as you know, he came out firing, killing both Sollozzo and McCluskey. Sollozzo's death was all over the news, along with McCluskey. Now from Sollozzo's end, this attack completely surprised him. He made sure his safety was completely secure for this sit-down with Michael, and it was, well, almost. He made sure they picked up Michael, and if you remember, Michael was a regular civilian at the time, so this fact makes Virgil feel safer about this sit-down. But his one mistake was that the Corleones figured out where the restaurant was to be held before they met. What had happened was that the Corleones had some lower-level cops working in McCluskey City and intercepted the location. This small but crucial mistake proved to be fatal for Sollozzo, securing his fate. Clemenza was able to plant the gun in the bathroom for Michael before they all got to the restaurant, and the rest is history. Although Virgil outsmarted Vito in many ways, he was still just inches away from his goal of taking out the Don, a task that proved just a bit out of his reach. And that's the video. How did you feel about the character Virgil Sollozzo? And did you think he was a smart businessman? Comment down below what you think. As always, thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe.